I would just want to say thank you and welcome to the 2020 official United Way CHAD campaign. Thank you for joining us today. It means a lot to United Way, but it means a lot to our community, more importantly, that you are showing this kind of commitment to what is throughout the time that we are going through right now, each and every day. So for each one of you to take your time and energy and sit through a presentation like this via Zoom, we appreciate it even more greatly than we normally do. So before we get started, I want to take care of a few details. I want to mention that this is being recorded because we will be able to share this to other coordinators who were unable to attend today. Also, make sure that you mute your computers. Everybody's done a great job of it, but just make sure to stay on mute. But we realize that you may have questions as you go along today, so feel free to type in the Zoom chat room, and you can type the question to myself, Ashley Martin, or Starlet Boretsky, or just share it with everyone. And Ashley and Starlet will be monitoring those questions so that we can start gathering them. There will be time at the very end to do structured questions that are not taken throughout the meeting today, but we do have some questions that people will be throwing out, and you will get a chance to win some prizes. Also, everyone will be receiving a small hand sanitizer that was logoed with United Way and CHAD. We will be mailing these out to you as soon as we get them. They are backed up in the shipping process, but we will be getting them. And so thank you just for being part of today. You will get that along with it. So I will go ahead and have Mia start sharing the screen, and we will start our day off. So the next one, slide, Mia. Okay, and I basically covered the welcome, the initial part of the welcome, but I do want to acknowledge that there are 73 individuals, or possibly more if you did not RSVP on the meeting today. And I want to say thank you for joining us. That's what I meant when I said that it shows your commitment to not only United Way and CHAD, but our community as a whole. Those 73 individuals represent at least 40 businesses and organizations in our community. So that's who's here today. Next screen, Mia. As well as today has a lot of volunteers that will be presenting the subject matter that we will be reviewing, as well as United Way and CHAD staff. So as you can see, United Way would not be successful without the work of each one of you, as well as our volunteers that work on our committees. And this is a group of individuals that will be presenting today that work from a volunteer perspective on our United Way 2020 or United Way and CHAD 2020 campaign. And you can see their names and the organizations they represent and the titles within the United Way campaign cabinet. In addition to that, there are 2 additional United Way and CHAD staff members that will be presenting, and that's Mark and Rachel, as well as myself. So without further ado, we'll go to the next slide, Mia. We realize that you did not get the chance to celebrate with us this past April in our 2019 annual meeting, because we didn't have a meeting. Much like most others, organizations, we did not get to celebrate the success of 2019. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge what we did. Overall, our United Way and CHAD campaign raised $6,745,749. This was $18,000 or a little over $18,000 more than we raised in the previous year. So take a moment and congratulate yourselves on that. I appreciate it very much, wholeheartedly. And resources under management, is the unrestricted dollars, or the dollars that we can distribute back out into the community underneath our processes when our nonprofits apply for funding. The resources under management is the pool of dollars that can be distributed back out into the community because of that. It also incorporates resources under management is also part of Engage, Empower, Graduate, which is what the Women United and the Emerging Leaders United raises. So those dollars actually count in RUM as well. And we call it RUM as a tagline and a shortened version. So you'll hear us spewing out RUM throughout the day today. Unfortunately, for the first time in many years, our RUM resources went backwards. And that was a very unfortunate timing because our agencies at a time when they needed it the most were applying for funding, and we did not have as much to give out as we had in prior years, to the tune of a loss of $260,000 or $261,000 almost dollars. And so that is significant. And it is an opportunity, presents an opportunity for us in this campaign, and we'll talk more about that. So Mia, can you turn next? Okay, so a couple of the other things that happened that probably related to the loss in RUM is we lost almost 1,000 donors in last year's campaign, 986 to be exact. And of those 986, 409 of them were leadership givers. A leadership donor is anyone who gives $500 or more through the United Way and CHAD campaign. So that kind of sets the stage for some of the opportunities that we have for the 2020 campaign. Each one of you should have been sent a data sheet from one of our staff members if you were on the RSVP list for today. That is your own personal data sheet for your own organization, and it shows how successful you were in 2019 in your campaign in comparison to the previous two campaign cycles. The one things that we would like to challenge you to look at, and Aaron Steuven and others that will be talking about this more, but when you look at your data analysis, the direction that you want to take your campaign should always be driven off of looking at the data that you're looking at. And in this particular year, let's pay attention, if you can and will, to your number of employee donors that you had and relative perspective to how many employees that you had. In this particular case on this data sheet, you will see that there were 187 employees, and 121 of those gave for a 64.7% participation rate. That's a pretty good participation rate for a company of that particular size. So that might not be an area that that particular company needs to focus necessarily on, just trying to focus on continuing to keep it up. The other item on that is highlighted next is the employee dollars that went to RUM. So that is the unrestricted dollars. In this employee campaign, there was right above it $148,594 raised. Of it, $59,897 went to resources under management. The others were designated dollars or restricted. So that is an opportunity. That is a 40% RUM to total donation ratio. And that might be something that organization wants to work on when they focus on RUM. The next thing is the number of leadership donors that this company had. This company had 55 of the 121 donors were donors that gave $500 or more. So that is another opportunity to move more of that 55 or more of that 121 donors into the leadership giving category. So there's opportunity there. And then the very last part of the page where you see total campaign, you will see that this particular organization, when you talk about all the employee donations plus the corporate giving and plus other things that they do, they raise $210,328. And of that $210,328, $121,631 right below that was RUM. So that's how you quick and dirty read your data sheets that you were emailed to you. And if you have any questions, our staff members, your staff liaison with United Way or CHAD can work through your campaigns and answer any questions on your data sheets and help you set goals. But this year, when you're goal setting, we'll probably ask you questions in relation to those particular highlights, because that will help us set up a goal and an ultimate an outcome that is positive in this particular campaign when we focus on one or more of those areas. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are very fortunate at United Way to have a significant volunteer base that helps us distribute dollars as well as fundraise for dollars. And every year a campaign leader steps up and says, I'm going to lead the charge for United Way and CHAD. And this year it is a couple that is leading the charge once again. This couple you may or may not know, but you're going to get to know because they're a very dynamic duo, I call them. And we have one of them here today with us. One of them is traveling for their job currently. We have Erin Steuben. She is part of the dynamic duo of Mark and Erin Steuben. And I'm going to turn it over for Erin as campaign co-chair with Mark to talk to you a little bit more.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Hi, everybody. Michelle, I was just thinking, as you mentioned, that about RUM and that we'll be hearing a lot about that today. And I was thinking, sure wish we were all together and you were pouring us RUM instead of spewing it out, because I think that would make our meeting so much more enjoyable. But anyways, as Michelle said, my name is Erin Steuben. I am a stay-at-home mom and a community volunteer. And I'm chairing the campaign this year with my husband, Mark. He works with Integrity Marketing Group. And as Michelle mentioned, he's actually traveling today, so is not able to be here. He was able to attend this training last year, and I was not. So it worked out well that we could swap and I could be here this year. We have 2 children, both who will be in middle school next year. So pray for me. I'm going to need it. And I just want to tell you a little bit about why we kind of got involved with United Way. We've both been involved and gave to United Way for many years, but we had an opportunity when Mark came to work for an organization in Lincoln to actually be on the board of directors, and that has had a huge impact on us. We knew a little bit about United Way, but not as much as we know now, and we are so thankful and appreciative to be involved in the campaign last year and the campaign this year as well. So at our core, we find it so important that we set example for our kids in how to be involved in the community, how to show and care for others, not just ourselves, and to not be selfish. So stepping up and chairing the campaign this year was really important to us to demonstrate to our kids really how to be involved. And this came long before COVID. It's even more important now than ever before, but we're so thankful and grateful to be a part of this and to be giving back and helping so many people during this time. So that's a little bit about us. And we want to thank United Way for letting us step up and do this. It's been great to meet so many people and get out in the community even more. So look forward to meeting you all one of these days. I just want to start with saying a huge thank you to all of you coordinators out there for saying yes. You may not have felt like you had the opportunity to say no, but every day that you talk about United Way, you are saying yes. Yes to United Way, yes to giving back to our community. So thank you for that. I know it's not an easy task. And as Michelle mentioned, all of you volunteers are really what makes our work and our campaign for United Way and CHAD such a success. You guys work so hard in bringing this money back into the community and helping those in need. So thank you. I know that this year our campaigns are going to look a little different as our work environments have changed. Take our Zoom today, for example. We are all over the place, yet we've come together through this video meeting, which is just wonderful. So we really have tasked our cabinet this year with being creative and thinking outside of the box when it comes to setting our campaign goals, when it came to talking about marketing. We've all had to adjust and really try and think outside the box. And your campaigns aren't going to be that much different. Some of you may not be back in the workplace at the point that you run your campaign. So that's going to be different as well. But we ask that you embrace that, embrace the change, and think about the advantages of it. And that's where we really want to step in and help. And our campaign coordinators that you'll be hearing from after a little bit, which is Kelsey, Lisa, and Susan, they're going to talk about that and offer up their services as well. So I'm asking you, please, please take advantage of them and what they can offer. They've been there, they've done that, they have the experience that they can help you with these campaigns and help you run a successful campaign. So please use the tools they're going to provide, use them as resources. We just want you to know that we are all here for you. So Michelle talked a little bit about the goals. As I said, let's see, there's a question. Can you please let me know their names again? Kelsey, Lisa, and Susan. Get to know their names. You're going to need them. But you'll be hearing from them here in just a little bit, and they'll be up on the screen. So you'll get to know them then. But in setting our goals, I was talking about in setting our goals for this year, we wanted to think outside of the box. And there was nothing harder than recognizing that our RUM goal was lower, or our RUM dollars raised was lower than what we needed it to be, and that we were not going to be able to provide our partner agencies the monies that we had in the past. That was an emotional tear at our heart, as it was for them too. And so we really started thinking about how can we adapt this year in setting our goals to not only increase our overall goal, but to really have a bigger impact. So that's when we talked about setting a RUM goal. Remember, those are the resources under management, or those undesignated dollars that come into United Way. So we set a goal of increasing RUM this year by 2%. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do that. And as Michelle mentioned, there's different ways on your sheet that you can look at how your organization performed last year and the successes you had to see where you might set additional goals within your organization. Please keep in mind that RUM goal of 2% in asking that donors give to RUM in, increase their gift, or give to where they maybe haven't in the past, give to RUM, so that we can increase and have a larger impact on our community and adapt to our changing environment. So that's our overall main goal of the 2%. Something that can help kind of as a subset goal of that is, again, addressing the number of donors. By increasing the number of overall donors, we automatically can increase our amount of RUM and overall meeting our overall goal. So please take a look at the number of donors you have in your organization, the number at the leadership level, and see how you might come up with ways of increasing the number of donors in your organization, while also asking that they consider donating to RUM this year. With the changes in our environment, the changes that our agencies are having to make, those RUM dollars are so important so that they can adapt to everything that's happening, and that we can adapt in how we support them. So those are very important. Also, I just wanted to again say thank you for your commitment to United Way. Thank you for putting in the effort you have so far and the effort you're going to have put in through the rest of the year. We're here for you. Let us know how we can help. And one of the ways that we are helping you help your employees is through our marketing effort, which also has changed and adapted over the past few months. And here to talk a little bit about that is our own Kurt Rohn, who is also a volunteer. He is with Union Bank and Trust, and he is on our cabinet this year. And I see today is a hat day for Kurt, yay. He helps us and spread our message to the community, to our employers, to our employees, and he's leading our marketing efforts this year. So I'm going to turn it over to Kurt and let him talk a little bit about what our message is and how we're getting it out there. So thanks for joining today, everybody.
All right, thanks, Erin. So there's a lot more hat than there is hair. So I was just going with that. And the hat matches the Live United shirt. We got to get that on there. So thank you for that. And, you know, I was thinking about when it was my turn to speak, how important it is to actually get the words you're going to say in the right order. Because I was thinking I was going to say, well, I'm virtually happy to be here. And it's more important, I think, to say I'm happy to virtually be here. But anyway, so thank you for having me here. As you were talking about, you know, this year's campaign does take a different shape and a different tone. And it's important to realize that, yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity. And so there are some things that we can do differently that may help us resonate with different audiences than we have in the past by just always doing the same thing. So for those of you that have been around for a couple years, yeah, raise your hand. I can't see very many of you. You might remember the Let's Face It campaign, where we highlighted people in the community who were beneficiaries of the great work that the agencies were doing, the member agencies of United Way and CHAD. And, you know, in thinking of that, we talked about the way that the money that people give changes lives. And as we go run our different workplace campaigns, we can influence people to give money that in turn changes people's lives. And we told those stories. And as this year came around and the COVID card was dealt to us, it's like, okay, we can't round up a whole bunch of new people and go shoot a new concept and different footage. And maybe that's actually a good thing. We came up with something that I think really leans into the people, like you're seeing Scott Young and Heath Bodie, that they were thrust into a situation where they had to roll up their sleeves, and now they are the front line. And, you know, a lot of us retreated to our basements or wherever, and we can work just fine remotely and be safe and healthy and all those things. Well, a lot of folks are still on the front line where there is a lot of great need, and they are facing it. And in turn, what we can do as people who are either in marketing and supporting the United Way cabinet, or people who are campaign coordinators going out and leading the campaigns in companies large and small, we can tell that story about how these folks are out there providing the much needed help, and how our dollars directly affect what we can get done and how many people we can help and the lives that we can change. So it's still a powerful message to face it. We're now seeing the people who are really, really facing it. So there's any number of campaign materials that we have at our disposal to help. And I know Susan, Kelsey, Lisa will be talking about some specific things later. One of those things I know will be the campaign brochure. And I believe, yep, there's Dawn Rocky, Executive Director at CASA. She is another one who is on the front lines facing it. And so you can see these different stories come together and painting the picture of the need and the delivery of the services and help in the community. So I think this will be highlighted later, but you can kind of see from the cover that we have some community leaders here that are involved. They were eager to put their face on this, and I think that's a very powerful message. In addition to that, let's say a lot of folks, whether you're going to have in-person meetings at your workplace, or if you're going to do things virtually, or maybe set up an intranet site, or even a Facebook group, or whatever that looks like for your company to best deliver the message, to your people who need to hear the message in order to be informed and motivated and inspired to give. One tool that we will have is this year's campaign video. And you'll start to see as we get that loaded up, thank you, Mia, these folks are telling the story in video form. And so as campaign coordinators, a lot of times, I was a coordinator for, I think, 13 years. And as coordinators, you can tell the story all you want. But a lot of times when you hear it from a third party or an expert in a field or someone who is living this day to day, the message is delivered much more powerfully. And let's take a look at the video.
I'm Heath Bodie. I'm the president and CEO of the Nebraska Hospice and Palliative Care Association.
I'm Dawn Rocky. I'm the executive director of CASA for Lancaster County.
The challenges that we have been faced with in light of this pandemic really are unprecedented.
Again, to say that it has changed what we do and how we do it would be an understatement.
What we have been able to do is try to maintain contact through video.
Our organization took a step back and tried to assess how we can become helpful for the healthcare providers that we represent.
Every program of the organization has shifted the way it does business.
Not being able to see kids, not being able to know that they're safe has been a challenge for us.
This time is incredibly heavy for the team members that are out there across the state and for the people that they're caring for.
My name is Scott Young. I'm the executive director of the Food Bank of Lincoln. We are a proud agency of the United Way of Lincoln and Lancaster County.
I'll tell you that we've been a United Way agency since 2004 and are so glad that we've had that continued support that has helped us keep our doors open.
Supporting the United Way to provide the resources for our employees and foster parents is critically important.
CHAD and the United Way support, especially during this time of COVID, allows us to effectively serve healthcare providers.
That has meant a great deal to us.
We're spending a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to keep everyone safe as we distribute food.
We're serving the same number of kids in foster care. We're serving the same number of kids in our child care centers. All levels of service remain.
You couldn't ask for anything more. I mean, the support has just been fabulous.
A young lady who was in shelter was having dinner. She saw me, perhaps looking like I was under pressure, and she turned from her plate and said, "Mr. Blue, I think you ought to take a nap, relax, and know that everything will be okay."
The stories that I get over and over from service that happens in every different living environment about love, that's what gives me hope.
Thank you, Mia, for playing that. So there's some great messages in there, particularly, I mean, for all of us, but particularly for campaign coordinators, highlighting the idea that the giving is even more important this year because of all the unique circumstances that so many people are facing. And for those of us who are able to give, some even at a higher level, because they're not spending money on gas and clothes for work and all of this stuff, if they're staying working from home and they've got a steady salary and all these things, more importantly than ever is giving this year. And a key ingredient here is leadership. You see community leaders like Scott Young and Dawn, and so the leadership though takes many forms, and it starts at the top of any organization. And so again, as coordinators, your life will be made so much easier if you have buy-in from the top. And in the community itself, if we have people that we can look at and say, oh my gosh, if this person cares, if this person is willing to put their face on it, then this must be a big deal. This must be important. And I am therefore compelled to give, or I am motivated to talk to other people about why I give. And we have some great examples of that. in more video form, and you will have these videos at your disposal as well, in addition to a few more. But let's take a look at a couple of them today. The first one being from Mayor Gaylor Baird.
Hello, how are you? I'm Mayor Lyrian Gaylor Baird. This is my office. It happens to be my birthday. My staff went a little crazy. They got the number wrong. This is supposed to be a 2. But today we're celebrating so much more. We're celebrating the United Way. And we are so grateful for their support of our community. And the city of Lincoln has supported the United Way and been a partner of the United Way for years. And we do that because it helps us serve our community in more profound and impactful ways. We've been partnering to deliver social services to the community, and our team members have been donating their personal funds to help support this incredible organization. So I understand you've got some questions, United Way, and you led off with, why is it more important than ever to give in 2020? Really? Really? Come on. The need has never been greater. I think we all know the answer to that question. It is a tough time for so many of our families. And what can neighbors and business leaders and community members do to help? Well, of course you can give if you are able, and I encourage you to do so. But even beyond that, I think what we all need to think about in 2020 is why so many people need help, beyond the obvious reasons with the pandemic. What is holding people back? What are the obstacles to people's success and opportunity? And how can I be a part of removing those obstacles and addressing the inequality of opportunity in our society? I think that's what we all need to be thinking about as we give our treasure and our time and our thoughts to making life better in Lincoln. And then what gives me hope? What gives me hope are how many people in Lincoln care. How many people in Lincoln are stepping up and asking those hard questions and looking for the answers and seeing how they can be involved. And the young people in particular who are raising their voices and sharing their lived experiences with the rest of us, those leaders of today and tomorrow, they give me hope too. Thank you, United Way, for all you do. And to all of you who support United Way, we are a good team.
All right, I can assure you this was not shot in stop motion. We're working on that. So might be a little bit of a bandwidth issue with this many folks online, but the message is there. And when you've got buy-in from the top, from your mayor, that's just a huge message. And I think it's really inspiring. And I think it's awesome that, that she was a big part of this. Also, we're going to take a look at a video with Tom Henning of Assurity sharing his thoughts.
Hi, I'm Tom Henning, President and CEO of Assurity Life Insurance Company. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to share my thoughts on the importance of United Way to our community. First, why does Assurity annually support United Way? Well, Assurity has been supporting United Way for over 50 consecutive years. We have done so because of the important role United Way plays in keeping our community strong and providing vital services to so many of our citizens. Our annual United Way workplace campaign allows our associates the opportunity to come together to support the greater good. You know, people want to work for companies who care about their community, and we're proud of our high level of associate participation in our campaign, in addition to our corporate support. Why is it even more important to support our community through United Way in 2020? Well, we're living through unprecedented times, arguably the most difficult period our country has experienced since World War II. The needs in our community have never been greater. United Way is especially focused on supporting the most vulnerable among us, who are disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. Through United Way, we can help our fellow citizens get through these difficult times. How can businesses across the community help? Well, this is not a time to step back in our philanthropic support. This is a time for us to try and do more. The needs have never been greater. Our company plans to run a vigorous campaign, and I'm going to recommend to our board of directors that we again increase our corporate pledge. What gives me hope? Well, there's a joke going around on the internet. Your grandparents were called to war. You've been called to sit on a couch. You can do this. Well, the fact of the matter is we can do this. We will get through this crisis. I believe we're not constrained by the conditions we face. We're defined by how we respond to them. Human ingenuity is limitless. That's what gives me hope.
All right, cool. So smooth, much smoother from Tom. So there's great messages here, and these videos and several more of different community leaders and business leaders will be made available to you as coordinators. And give a look. Maybe there are certain ones that have a message or a tone that fits your organization best. But I think the key here is to illustrate to your workplace, your employees, that in order for these member agencies to do great work, they need our help. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so when we provide that help, then they're able to do that great work. So to tell us more about the great work that these organizations do in the community, we have Rachel Cermick, Director of Community Impact. Rachel, all yours.
Thanks, Kurt. And thank you for all you do and all the other volunteers do in support of our campaign. So I'd like to spend my time with you sharing how COVID has impacted United Way's partner agencies and how they've responded in the face of those challenges. But before we dive into some specific information about how the pandemic has impacted United Way's partner agencies, I want to take some time to provide a few brief comments on United Way's Community Impact Framework, as it provides guidance and direction for the 3 ways in which United Way uses unrestricted funds to support our community. So if folks have seen this graphic before, I appreciate your patience as I spend a bit of time here. As you all know, United Way works in 3 different pillars: education, income, and health. And under each, we have these large community level goals we're striving to attain. Those are what's in the blue box at the very, very top of the graphic. And the way we attain these goals is by funding programs and different strategies, which are the yellow, orangish color box at the bottom, which helps us achieve the midterm successes, which are in the green area in the middle. I want to highlight that these goals aren't just going away because we're living through a pandemic. If anything, they've become even more important, and the work our partner agencies do in the community moving us toward these goals is equally as vital. Income security is equally important in light of COVID. Educational attainment, successful students are important. Maintaining safety and health for our community and the goals that we have in each 3 of those areas are still so important during this time. So Mia, can we move to the next slide? So what has this looked like for our partner agencies, and why do they need us more than ever? It's pretty simple. We are seeing an increasing need, which we'll talk about here in a bit. And the resources aren't necessarily keeping up with that increased need. In a survey that we sent out to our partner agencies, more than 2/3 indicated that their funded program had lost income as a result of COVID. In that same survey, more than 75% of our partners shared that they were seeing an increased need for their program and their services. So they've had to make changes in the way they're delivering their services, all while facing this reality of having greater need with less resources to address it. And we're going to spend some time highlighting how they've addressed it, but oh my goodness, we have such great partners serving our community who have done more than step up to the plate to meet the need that we have. But they also need our support to continue to do that in the upcoming year. So I am going to spend some time talking about how this has impacted our agencies through the lens of each 3 of our pillars. Please just note that while I'm highlighting a few programs here in these slides and a few agencies, I could take up our entire time, and Michelle wouldn't like me if I did that, so I won't. I'm talking about how all of our agencies have responded and had to adjust. We will be sharing a document. It'll be posted on the campaign section of United Way's website that does outline the way all of our partners have responded. And I would just note that that information was current about a few weeks ago, and because their need is constantly changing, our community's constantly changing, which is what part of the challenge is. Just note that we'll update, but that's when that was most recently current. So as it relates to education, I just want to highlight that as the directed health measures have changed from March to April to May to June, all of our agencies have had to adjust. So for what that might look like in an early childhood program like Cedars Youth Services or Willard or Northeast Family Center, they've kept their classrooms open, continued to enroll and provide care to their students, but they also recognize, particularly, I know Willard and Northeast responded in this way, knowing that there was a need for school-age care while schools were closed, Malone Center as well. And so they provided school-age care as well during the day throughout the quarantine. And so they helped students maintain and even improve their scholastic achievement during that time. Community Action's Head Start program had their teachers reaching out to families at home to connect them with services and drop off supplies like diapers. And programs like Block Center for the Arts and Girl Scouts, which normally operate within the CLC after-school clubs, adjusted their program and distributed kits to their students. And so this is just a very, very high-level highlight about how some of our agencies, our programs have responded. Some have added additional services to what they would normally provide their students, including food distribution, which is a great segue to the next slide. So within income, we are seeing a really significantly projected increase in the need in this area. So Feeding America, for example, is actually projecting a 45% increase in food insecurity. But our local partners, the Food Bank of Lincoln, are anticipating that that's going to look more like a 35% increase for Lancaster County. To kind of put that in perspective, there's just over 40,000 people in Lancaster County pre-COVID who are considered food insecure. An increase of 35% would have about 54,000 people facing in food insecurity in our community. UNL, who has the Center for Children, Families on the Law, is the main coordinating body for the coordinated entry system for homelessness here in our community. And they're projecting, based off of historical data and looking at unemployment figures, that our community is going to see an additional 1,200 households experiencing homelessness as a result of COVID and the residual loss of income. So we know there's need, and we know that our funded partners are stepping up. So many of our funded partners, for example, the Center for People in Need have transitioned to drive-through food distributions. Center for People in Need saw a tremendous increase in the number of families seeking services through their weekly food distributions. The food bank had to call in the National Guard to help provide the necessary capacity to get food to our partner agencies. And we have many partner agencies that address food insecurity, like the Good Neighbor Center and Catholic Social Services, among others. And then our shelters had to employ social distancing to ensure the safety of their residents. And so Jim Blue was highlighted in the video. We know that they took advantage of having perhaps additional space, that they, I think, moved forward a little bit more quickly than they were planning on, so that they could safely have distance between the residents and their shelters. And that's had a huge impact on just the way our agencies operate, but they have been focusing on the need and focusing on addressing it in the face of all these obstacles. And then so just looking at our health response, we know that there's going to be an increased need for behavioral health, and our providers like Family Service Lincoln and Hope Spoke took on the immense task and not resource light task of transitioning all of their services to telehealth. And because of that, they've been in that very speedy transition, which I think took weeks when normally it would take months, have been able to continue to offer those much needed behavioral health services in a way that meets the needs of the community right now for their safety and for their patient safety as well. We heard from Dawn on the video about the impact COVID has had on maintaining safety of children during this time. Many of our partners that engage in child abuse prevention and child abuse response are realizing that without kids being in school, or with the number of kids in after-school programs being reduced and just that interaction looking differently, that the moment when students go back into school, they're most likely going to see an increase in the number of responses to the child abuse hotline. And so they're preparing for that influx. Just because when throughout quarantine, having children at home and without other adults having eyes on them, there's been an impact there. So they're gearing up and preparing for what they anticipate will be more calls for child abuse. And these are hard things to talk about, but they're important things to talk about. And then, our domestic violence service providers kept their doors open and their hotline staff in order to be able to provide the safety for those seeking safety from domestic violence. So I'd like to introduce Mark Feit, the Lincoln Director for CHAD, who is United Way's campaign partner, to talk about CHAD, their partners, and how they're responding during this unique year.
Thank you very much, Rachel. And we're halfway through the training. So normally, if we were all in a room together, I would have everybody stand up and do some sort of action. We can't do that. So what I want you to do is grab whatever's closest to your left hand and put it on the screen. If you're left-handed, that's probably your mouse, which is also acceptable. But Rachel's got a can of something. Okay, good. Michelle's got her phone. What a shock. All right, just to make sure you're active. Before we go any further, I do have a couple of shout outs. A couple of my coworkers, Michelle Grossman and Shonda Shirley from our Omaha office, are on today. And this might be the first time ever there are 3 Beatrice High Orangemen on the Zoom call today. Adam Hobine and Amy Argo and I all went to high school in Beatrice. I'm not going to talk about years because it's really depressing, but hi to both of you. Okay. So let's talk about CHAD. We are 21 health charities that are statewide over the state of Nebraska, because when you have a chronic health condition, your need doesn't change, whether you're in Beatrice or Benkelman or Lincoln or whatever that is. So our charities offer care and support to those that need it. That is also training and education. They all, not all, some of them fund research and do fundraising to do that research with walks and rides and galas and things like that. And they do advocacy at the state and national level to help respond to things that are important to their constituents. So that's very much a baseline of CHAD, who we are and what we do. And what all 21 of our charities do normally and in the face of COVID will also be posted on the agency page on the United Way website right next to the United Way agencies. So if you would like a little light reading and want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can certainly do that. On the screen, you see some of the things that our charities have pivoted to do in the face of COVID. And Katie Bagneski is on this Zoom call as well. She works at the Nebraska Hospice and Palliative Care Association and has been instrumental in sharing their story. But they, if you read this, they didn't do any of this before March, 0 of this. So when you are a training and advocacy organization for people who care for people, you don't normally produce hand sanitizer. You don't normally purchase masks and redistribute them to skilled nursing and assisted living facilities in the state of Nebraska. But that's what they did, because that's what the need was. So they immediately changed and spent, if you work for a nonprofit, you understand this, spent money they didn't have to be able to do this because that was the need. So to break this down, they worked with UNL to produce over 3,000 gallons and counting of hand sanitizer to distribute to those facilities. And let's talk about the PPE. 6,610 face shields, 3,000 N95 masks, 3,000 shoe coverings, 6,867 cloth masks that were donated, 104,801 surgical masks, plus gowns and coveralls and gloves, and even some Samsung tablets, because that's what their members needed and couldn't get to respond to the COVID crisis. So they have done some really awesome, amazing, heartfelt work. And I love talking about the work that they do and the work that our other charities do. Some of the other examples, almost all of our charities do some sort of support group. And they've, of course, all had to take those online, because people with chronic illnesses a lot of the times are the most susceptible to COVID. So one of the things that I got to take part in from JDRF was a Zoom coffee to keep people living with type 1 diabetes and parents of kids with type 1 diabetes, to keep them connected. Chronic illness is incredibly isolating, because there are times when you think, I'm the only one dealing with this, nobody else knows what I'm going through, I don't have anybody to talk to. So that connection is so very important all the time, but especially when we're all isolating at home. So that's a really cool thing that a lot of our charities have done. Team Jack took it a step further. If you're familiar with Team Jack, you know that they are involved with a lot of football players and athletes at the university. So they enlisted their help to create these hour-long Zoom meetings to keep that energy going and awareness and engagement. So they enlisted their #1 fan, Rex Burkhead, but they also brought in Alex Gordon and Jordan Larson, the volleyball star, and Eric Crouch to talk about Team Jack and pediatric brain cancer research. So there are a couple of things that our charities did to pivot. And that's it. I've covered everything on my list to cover. So thank you very much for being on this and learning and helping us to raise money to help people, because that's what it's about. It's about helping people, our friends and our neighbors who need it. All right, up next is our coordinator coaching and education team. The 4 of them do awesome work. They've run lots and lots of campaigns and have some fantastic ideas. So Susan Hoover will start. She's one of our co-chairs, and she works at Nelnet to talk about how to make campaigns successful. Susan, it's all you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving us the overview of your charities, Mark, and what they're doing to move forward during this crisis. Well, we're going to take a little bit of time now to talk about some tools that you can use as coordinators to get your campaign off the ground, whether this is your first one, your second one, or if you are like Kurt and I and you've got more than a decade in, there's always something that you can find out here with United Way that can help you run your campaign. So the first thing I want to do is talk a little bit about getting those pledges in. Traditionally, most companies go with hard copy pledge forms. These are the triplicate forms that you can get from your United Way coordinator. They will also provide brochures. These are great when everyone's in the office. If you have people that aren't necessarily computer savvy, they're the old standby. But this year we know we're going to have to do some changing up of things. So the United Way does also have PDF pledge forms that can be filled in. I know I have a tool on my computer that allows me to pull up a PDF and fill in the blanks. They can also be printed off and sent in or given to a campaign coordinator as well. To go along with those electronic PDF forms that are available, they also have electronic versions of the brochures that will be available for you as well. Not a lot of companies are real familiar with ePledge, so I'm going to talk about it for just a moment because Nelnet is 100% ePledge, and we've been that way for a number of years. Let's just go there. I quit counting a while ago, but ePledge is great if your company employees all have access to the web. Maybe they're spread out across different locations. Maybe they're used to checking their email daily for notifications. It's a little challenging to blend ePledge with actual pledge forms, but it can be done. And this year we know that things are going to have to kind of be mixed up a little bit to make things work. Pledge is all done through a secure website. It does require a little advanced planning. There is a lead time of about 8 weeks to get the site set up. It is somewhat customizable for how you run your campaign or how you would like to have your pledges come in. So United Way does not actually do that. They have a third party, and that's why there's a little bit longer lead time. But they can manage email invites out to your associates. They can do follow-ups. So let's say your campaign's 2 weeks, and after a week, you don't have responses from half your people. They can email those people that have not responded and just give them a reminder. We will do e-pledge demos if you're interested in that at all. Just remember the lead time and plan ahead or think ahead about that. And if you have any questions, your United Way contact person can get you that information or direct you to one of us that does e-pledge, and we can help you out with that. And I think I've gone through all my notes on that. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Lisa Workman and Kelsey Henn. They are both with Security First Bank, and they have been co-chairs of the coordinator coaching and education with me for a couple of years now. So I will turn it over to Lisa and Kelsey.
Thank you, Susan. I'm Lisa, that's Kelsey, or I don't care, we answer either way, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to kick it off, but I have to say, number one, I love Zoom because if you go to the grid video, we look like Brady Bunch on steroids. There's like 900 of us. I love it. And my employees pass me notes under my door. So there you go. All right, so this year, depending on your organization and how you're operating at the time that you run your campaign, nothing's going to be normal. So you're going to have to get really creative, which we love. So always reach out to us for any ideas. It's going to be challenging, but we might find some hidden successes that you can capitalize on in other campaigns. It's just a great opportunity. It's a unique opportunity to really bring something to your organization with the campaign. And, you know, there's already a theme, and it's, you know, United Way, we always think in terms of our community being the recipient. Well, they are the recipient of what we provide with United Way because of our resources. This year, United Way is the front line. They're the recipient to be able to continue to provide services to our members of our community and the agencies that, you know, we work with. So that's really kind of the, you know, the theme anyway that we're capitalizing on, and we're really going to lean on our senior managers and things like that. So, but we'll get into more of that. I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey, and she's going to hit on some bullet points for your campaign.
So one thing we've been talking about, we've been running our campaign for a couple years now, and you know, our first discussion, which I'm sure you guys have already kind of started as well, is how can we tailor each of these campaigns to your organization? I feel like we feel like all organizations have been affected by COVID differently. For example, like the bank, we didn't really shut down. We were super busy. We were kind of the opposite of where some organizations might have been shorter staffed or understaffed, or, you know, people then moving from home like Nelnet, all of that type of stuff. So, you know, for us, we might have seen a whole different aspect of COVID from the bank side. So really dig deep into the heart of your organization to see how you need to tailor your campaign. So, you know, things doing like Zoom meetings, Skype, in-person meetings with social distancing 6 feet away, coffee and contacts, lunch and learns, you know, what your organization can handle and what fits best with trying to reach all of your employees. You know, again, for the bank, we're reopening, and so we're still going to do, you know, video type stuff because that's kind of the new norm for everybody, like a Zoom United Way building blocks. So it's really, you know, just what works best with your organization. Doing all those types of things, you know, we can help you come up with ideas, new ideas. You know, Susan's been doing it forever. I'm sure she has great challenges with Nelnet this year, just because all of them are pretty much working remotely, or the majority of them. So, you know, she's probably going to work more with Zoom and that type of stuff, where some people might be back, you might be half staff, full staff, or just, you know, how you approach asking people to donate this year, because they might have, you know, your organization really might have been affected not in a great way. And so just trying to get those dollars and make every dollar count.
And not being afraid to ask, you know, it's always every year. It's funny because we always talk about ways to ask people that maybe haven't donated before, they're a new employee to the company, which kind of makes that seem all irrelevant at this point, because it should be easy to ask in a normal year, but we're not in a normal year. It really puts it in perspective. So, you know, we just can't be afraid to ask, because I think that, I hope that our community's mindset is, you know, it is our greatest challenges ever, and the need has never been greater, and you're not going to get results unless you ask. And that's where it goes back to tailoring your campaign to fit where your company's at, to make sure that it's meeting the needs of those people within the organization, and having them have a comfort level to be able to know that donating is much needed this year. So
obviously you guys have seen the videos with the mayor and Tom Henning, all of that. So there's those 2 to 5 minute videos that are really important that you can utilize all of that. Utilize us too to help maybe incorporate those types of things into your campaign if you're not able to have those one-on-one meetings or anything like that. Again, if you need a lunch and learn, we're your gals. But so use those as part of your education, your donor base. You know, again, really focus on leadership giving and all that. How has it been impacted? Question, I guess, for everybody that we have is, do other people have thoughts, ideas where you can use the 2-minute or 5-minute agency videos with inside your campaign? Please type in the chat box that you have a suggestion, and or we can call on you. So
we're going to be using, that's kind of our theme. We've got some creative stuff, so can't tell you, it's top secret, but our videos are going to bring some reality and a little humor, but again, relying on our leadership, you know, within our organization. It's another creative way, and we'll make it work somehow. But
yeah, and then so whoever gives answers, feedback, you will be getting a United Way logo item for providing feedback, getting some little interaction with everybody via Zoom. Looks like Crystal said, what's the, oh.
Hello.
She's
frozen.
So everyone, Crystal wants to know what what the question was, but before we ask that question again, why don't we take a few moments and listen to one of our 5-minute speakers videos that we have, and then Lisa and Kelsey, why don't you ask the question again via chat, if you don't mind.
My name is Heather Lockman, and I am the Communications and Development Director at Community Action Partnership of Lancaster and Saunders counties. And I'm so sad that I can't be with you in person as I normally would be, but it is my pleasure and my honor today to record this video on behalf of the United Way campaign. Community Action is a poverty-fighting nonprofit based in Lincoln that provides 18 programs and services designed to fight poverty in 4 impact areas. And those are early childhood education, homelessness prevention, financial and family well-being, and hunger relief and healthy food access. We are proud to be a United Way partner agency. which means that we receive dollars raised through this campaign to support our poverty fighting work here in our community. I want to share just one example of a real couple that was served through our emergency services program several years ago. This is Dwight and Martha. Dwight and Martha were a retired couple. They lived here in Lincoln their entire life. They worked here, they saved, they raised their family, and they really went through most of their life without having to worry about much of anything. They were comfortable. That was turned upside down in a heartbeat when one day Martha learned, following a medical appointment, that she had a positive cancer diagnosis. Thankfully, the couple had savings and they had insurance, and they were able to manage the cost of Martha's treatment in their budget. That changed again. 2 weeks later, Dwight received his own cancer diagnosis. Not only was this emotionally shattering for the couple, but they now had a new set of challenges to deal with. So suddenly, their whole world was turned upside down once again, and they found themselves needing assistance with our most basic needs as humans, things like rent, things like utilities, things like food and transportation. Dwight and Martha didn't even know how to seek assistance. They didn't know agencies like ours existed in the community to provide that sort of emergency assistance that we all need from time to time to get by. But they eventually found us here at Community Action, and they applied for rent assistance. And because of the dollars that we received through the United Way Fund, and ultimately from people like you, we were able to provide them on-the-spot assistance so they were able to keep pace with their living expense with rent. The economic implications of COVID-19 have been significant, and more people than ever, people just like Dwight and Martha, are going to be requesting assistance for the first time in their life. We as an agency are really working now to ensure our capacity to respond to those needs, providing assistance with rent and utilities and food and some of our most basic human needs that some may never have had to think twice about before. These will all be very real things in our community. And we're asking you today to consider a gift to the United Way Fund. Your gift to the fund will allow us to ensure our capacity to respond to needs